Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of the Eli Flows Perspective. Today we are joined by Holly Hardeman, Nico Mathews, and Nyla Osmani. So the reason we have us four together is me and Holly have been dating for 2 years, and Nico and Nyla have been dating for 4 months now. And we just wanted to talk about, how to be, how to be in a Christ-like relationship. So the question I want to ask y'all is, why is it important to date a Christian, to, have a relationship with a Christian?
So in the Bible, everyone always refers to it when it comes to dating, but it does mention to be equally yoked with your partner and to basically, it's telling us to strive for Christ at the same pace and to be running for Christ together. And it just provides that image of those two cows or oxen with the yoke across of it, and it's like a plank of wood, and if one is walking too fast, then the other one isn't going to be able to keep up. It's dragging the other one along. So the two creatures have to be walking at the same pace in order to reach their destination as fast as possible. So I think being in a relationship with a Christian provides the opportunity to have the biblical type of love of being equally yoked with your partner. Because if your partner doesn't know how to love you the way God loves, and you don't know how to love your partner the way God tells us to love, then it's much, much, much more difficult for it to be biblical love.
I would say too, about the whole yoke thing. So if a cow or oxen is, pulling one way and then another one's going straight or pulling the other, that's painful for the cow or ox, right? So it's also, if one person in the relationship is pulling this way, let's go to church on Sunday, and the other one's like, no, I want to sleep in. How is that gonna work out? It's important to be going in the same direction and move as one in a unit, and not just do your own thing, go your own ways.
Yeah, I would say with that, that's what I'd say, a hindrance. It's a hindrance to, your relationship and, your relationship with God. But, I remember my youth pastor saying one time that he was talking about, being, a hindrance or, someone hindering you. But he was saying, when you're running together and, equal, when two run together, there's less of a hindrance. When you're equally yoked, you're less likely to, be hindered in any type of way.
Yeah, that's really good. And I would also say something really important in relationships, especially relationships built on Christ, is the accountability aspect. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot, is how if we're both striving for Jesus, because that's the goal, is to be more like Jesus. And you can't do that if the person you're with isn't, that's not their goal. So like I said, accountability. I know sometimes before we talk on the phone at night, we'll be like, did you do your quiet time? So that's really important for us to make sure that we're both good with the Lord. So then eventually that makes us good with each other. So.
And I think that brings up a good point too, in that your dating and marriage, there needs to be that separate boundary there, in the sense of when you're dating, you should still be loving the person and leading them towards Christ, but your priority is your own personal relationship with God. While when you're married, your personal relationship is still the most important, but your relationship with your partner and y'all working towards your relationship with God moves up to equal importance, because now when you become married, you become one. It's y'all are one unit now. And so just keeping that separated, of reminding yourself that when you're dating, holding each other accountable is really important, because you should be working on making your personal relationship with God as best as it possibly can be, in order to help you to love the other person as well as you possibly can.
So in what ways do you know if you and your partner are equally yoked? What are the things that you look for? What are the things that you do?
You want
I mean, I'd say one thing that we do, we always like we'll call each other at night, and one thing we do, we always pray together. And I don't know, there's always something about it that just is like special, and like there's a different type of like feel to it whenever you're praying with someone. Like whenever like we'll like take turns or whatever. But like there's just like a different feel to it. Like you're praying on your own, you're gonna get very distracted, right? But I feel like whenever you're like praying with someone, or like either you're more likely to listen, and then you're also like you're focusing on what you're saying to God, and like what you're like truly trying to say.
Yeah, and you're also like keeping that foundation strong, right?
Yeah.
Like when you engage in like biblical things together, like whether that be prayer or Bible study or any of these things, you're adding more support to that foundation rather than replacing it with something worldly. And that's really important, because like I'm sure we all know that like that worldly foundation, it'll replace it for a little bit, but like there will be a point where that crumbles, and keeping that foundation renewed and strong is what is going to cause the relationship to be as strong as it can be.
Yeah, I would say another thing with like the prayer is, if you're praying together, right, you're gonna have, you're gonna pray about things that is on your mind and you're worrying about. So you're automatically gonna know, like, okay, she is clearly struggling with this, or she needs help with this, or things like that. And she might not tell you just by herself, but praying that, you're gonna realize those things over time.
Yeah, and you'll be like, on your own, you'll pray for them for that certain thing that you're praying together about.
Yeah, that's really good. I would also say, like, you can tell someone, like, okay, the verse in the Bible where it's like, a tree by its fruit. So like, the person you're with, if they're following after Jesus, based on the fruit that they're producing. And I would say, like, it's so crazy we talk about this, like, majority of our conversations that we have always go back to the Lord. And like, I think that's a testament to like our faith and our relationship with him. It's like, we could be talking about, I don't know, the color of the sky, and then we'll talk about how like the Lord is such a beautiful and like handy creator, and how like he painted the sky, you know what I mean? So it's like just knowing, like, before you pick the person you want to be with, because we're supposed to date to marry, that's the goal, but like make sure themselves, like, they're bearing the fruit of the Spirit. So yeah.
And what you were talking about before, what y'all were just saying before she mentioned that, you were saying how when you're praying with someone, you can understand what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
And that sort of reminded me of something that I think it's really important that we bring up and talk about. And you were asking, like, how do you know if like you're equally yoked with someone? And something I want to highlight is that at every hour of the day for the rest of your life, you're not always going to be the exact same point as your partner in your faith journey, right? Like, your partner may be going through something during a time and their faith may be struggling when your faith is extremely strong in the moment. But that's not saying that your relationship isn't equally yoked. That is providing you an opportunity to help your partner get back to the point in which they were. So I think it's important to differentiate that as well. So like, when you're trying to figure out if a relationship is equally yoked, like, understand that if there's a time when like your partner's relationship with God isn't as strong as it once was because of extenuating circumstances, don't make that, oh, we're not equally yoked anymore, which it can turn into that, but that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's just like another, like, you can push each other towards the Christ, towards Christ. Yeah. And that, like, I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, like friendships and relationships.
Definitely. I think that shows the importance of why we need to have people in our lives who are striving after Jesus. Because when we go through those seasons of drought, it's like we need that community who's going to bring us back to the Lord.
Yeah, and like we were talking about it, like, let's say like Eli will text me and he's like, hey, like, I'm going to read, or like, I'm going to journal right now. And I'll just be laying in my bed. I'm like, okay, wait, maybe I should too. Yep. So like, we were just talking about that. And like, it's like such a sense of like motivation for me, like, not in like the fact of, oh, like, I want to be closer to Christ than he is. It's more like it shows how much he cares. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I care too. So let me just do this instead of, scrolling on my phone or whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah. And something else is that, like, this is just basing off of what I was saying before, but being equally yoked isn't just based off each of your own personal relationships with God. It's also based off how are you pushing each other towards God, right? Like, your personal relationship is of utmost importance in a relationship, like your personal relationship with God. But being equally yoked is also based off, hey, am I encouraging this person to live for Christ? Am I encouraging this person to live in the way they should be living? Am I encouraging this person to pour into this relationship the way that it should be poured into? So don't just base being equally yoked on how good each of your personal relationships are. You can also see it by, or is their faith something that they keep to themselves? Is it something that, okay, they're not maybe falling into sin, but they're not really talking to you about it at all either? Like, this is all stuff that factors into being equally yoked.
This is really random, but like, I have a couple people ask me, how do I know if I'm not equally yoked, and if I'm not, how do I resolve the situation Christlike? So what would y'all do in those situations?
I mean, I feel like I'm starting the answer, so I feel bad again. But I think something that we talk about a lot is just like really communicating. And like, there obviously, like what I was saying before, there are going to be times when like you're going to be struggling in your faith. There's going to be times when like you're not spending time in the word the way you should be. There are times you're not prioritizing prioritizing God the way you should be. But it's not, when you're in a relationship with anybody, even your friends, like communicating that, like, hey, like I'm struggling right now, and like I need some encouragement, some pushing in the right direction, because there's going to be times like that. So just like when you're struggling with something, don't allow that to be like something that you don't share with someone who it could also be affecting. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm personally struggling in my faith and I'm like, hey, like I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm not in a place right now where I feel like I can lead this properly. Like, I'm going to tell her that. And then that provides us an opportunity to work through that together, where she maybe for this portion of time puts in a little bit more effort than me, to help me. Maybe she'll text me in the morning and be like, hey, like make sure you do your quiet time today, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing is like communication and accountability, as she was saying before, is the best way to, if you feel like you're potentially holding someone back, if you don't feel equally yoked, like that's probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and as far as knowing if you're unequally yoked, I would say spend time with the person. Like I said it before, you'll know a tree by the fruit it bears. And the more time you spend with someone, the more you become like them. And if you find yourself like, wait a second, I'm looking more like them and not like Jesus, and it's like, oh shucks, like we're not equally yoked. And I think that's red flag, so run. But like, yeah, so I think, dating isn't really talked about in the Bible. And I think that's important because it's like, it's so common in today's culture. But what we're doing is we're dating to marry. So it's like, I'm spending time with this person, getting to know them, but eventually, like, hopefully they should be leading you to become more like Christ. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like the closer you get to them, like the more you'll see, but also like the closer you get to God, the more clarity you'll have in like seeing what their actions, like what fruit they're bearing. Yeah, so like, good. I mean, obviously like you have the fruit of the Spirit. So like, are they, giving off like patience, like kindness, like all giving of that. Off. Yeah. But anyways, but yeah, it's like the closer you get to God, the more you'll see like who really is chasing after God beside you. And yeah.
I remember I was listening to this podcast. I think I might have said it before, but it was basically this guy. He said he grew up in this church and all these people were very wise, but they didn't have any fruit. Like nothing was happening. They were just really wise. It was almost like, how like rabbi are or things like that. They didn't have a true relationship with Christ. So I remember he said it was like, if you don't have a true relationship with Christ, you're gonna tell by their fruit, because, if they're not, what's the word? It's like, if you're with the vine, then you're gonna bear fruit. So if you're not with that relationship with Christ, then you're not gonna see that fruit grow, and that's how you're gonna know if they truly have a relationship with Christ.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think that's good.
I heard on another podcast once, it was like, if someone was like, oh, you're starting, or what was it? If someone compared you to your partner, was like, oh, you look like, for instance, oh, you look like John, would you get offended, or would you genuinely be like, you know what? Yeah, that's good. Because if you get offended, then that's probably another red flag, so run. But if you're like, yeah, I like that I look like this person, because ultimately looking like them is looking more like Jesus. So that goes back to your partner should be leading you closer to Christ.
Yeah.
And I think even from a broad standpoint, religion is such a big part of being in a relationship with somebody, getting married to somebody, and being not being the same religion can potentially provide a lot of clashing, in the sense of you may not realize it now, but later on. I have a cousin who, she's Christian and her husband is Jewish, which I don't really know how that works, because anyway, but now that kids are coming into the picture, there could be a chance that now the kids are now going to have to choose a path to go down. Hey, your religious belief may affect your political views. Your religious belief may affect, hey, I want to send my kid to this school. Hey, it's things like that your religion is such a major part in who you are, or at least it should be, especially for a Christian, is that should define who you are. And so being with somebody who doesn't share that can potentially provide a lot more difficulties in your journey together that may not be there if, you were both chasing Jesus beforehand.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say.
I might have a question. Well, I was just thinking, because maybe someone's listening and they don't know, personality traits, not personality traits, but things they should look for in another significant other.
Baddie.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Sorry.
You know what I mean? What are some traits that they'll have that, one thing is I heard or saw, do you see them, waking up to go to church with you? Because I know I've seen a couple people at my church, it'll only be the wife and kids and they come to church. And I'm and my mom will know them. They're yeah, they have a husband, but they don't really believe. But then that just puts a lot of pressure on just the mom.
Definitely.
And then that also just causes conflict with the whole family and the dad, because it's why doesn't he believe? Why does he have to not have to get up?
Yeah, to go.
You know what I mean? But what are some different things that people should look for in another person?
Before that's answered, going off of what you were just saying, I saw this TikTok and it was the person you choose, if you're a Christian and you're firmly believing that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, you should be dating to marry. That is biblical. That is because dating isn't in the Bible, you're supposed to be working towards marriage. That's the only reason you should be in a relationship with someone. And so just remembering, I saw this TikTok that was talking about how the person you choose is going to be there to help you get through the death of your parents. They're going to be there through all these hard times that you're going to face for the next 60, 70 years of your life. They're going to be the ones who are helping you raise your kids. Are you just choosing this person because you think they look good? Are you choosing this person because, they talk to you and they make you laugh? These are all really good things. I hope that happens too. But just make sure that you're remembering the things that actually matter, because beauty fades, and just remembering the things that are important. The thing you're going to leave in this world is your children, right? And you should be confident that the person you choose is going to be able to raise them correctly. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that. But your
No,
question is if
that
y'all
was
have
good.
stuff to say about, like, what would you say you can look for someone who, like.
Yeah, I would say, bringing it to scripture, Proverbs 27:17 says, okay, so iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens another. And just thinking about that, I don't know. So, okay, obviously, like, the biggest thing you want your person to do is lead you closer to Christ. But also, like, you should be equally yoked in not just your faith, but in other things as well. Like, are you goal driven and goal oriented and they're like lazy? Like, that's not going to work in the relationship either. So I would say look for just similar character traits, or like you said, personality traits. So it's like, do I like to be outside and in nature and there's such a homebody, which that's fine, but it's like to the degree where it's like this relationship isn't going to work. So I would say kindness, like fruits of the spirit,
Yeah.
kindness, love, joy, peace, which obviously that comes from the Holy Spirit, but it's like even the small things, like are they clean and you're dirty, or vice versa, like that's
Yeah.
not going to work in the relationship. So I would just look for things where it's like, yes, this is leading me closer to Christ, but also this is leading me to where I want to go in life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that
More
makes
of a
sense.
successful kind of
Yeah,
mindset.
definitely.
I think, yeah, that's a good point, is being equally yoked in other areas as well. Now, I kind of disagree. Like, I feel like if a homebody and an outdoorsy, I don't think that's a reason to end the relationship.
No, I agree, yeah.
but I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I do agree. Like, that definitely, like, you know, if your faith is amazing and the other person's faith is amazing, like, you know, you got to consider other factors too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's definitely important. And just make sure that they, like, align with what you want and what you would want to do in the future, you know, like, yeah, I thought that's good.
I actually do have another question.
Mm.
So, like, obviously you were in college, and Nyla was still in high school. How did, and, like, we're both going to college, so, like, we didn't have to experience this. So, like, how did you deal with, like, the relationship part of college?
You wanna
Okay,
go?
so a little backstory. So it's kind of crazy, but so we all like went to the same school. So like he's class of 24. Yes, we're class of 25. So he was a senior when I was a junior, and we were friends before. And then like we went into the summer and we didn't talk from June to November. So we didn't talk for 5 months, which like that's really bad. But it's like still whatever, we came back, you know, we both
Like,
took
God
time.
brought us back
literally
together,
like
you know?
crazy story. So if you ever want that, find us. But yeah, so like the Lord brought us back, and so we started dating in February. And I wouldn't say that it was hard, but it was hard. Like
Yeah.
cuz like he's in college, which he goes to Georgia Tech, which is up the road, but that's still like, you know, I'm not going to trek up the highway to like see him on a Tuesday cuz like
She actually can't drive on the
okay,
interstate.
love that.
But,
But yeah,
okay.
so it's like I'm still in high school, and like my life is go to school from 7:55 to 3:15. Like that was the thing. And then like we had lacrosse, so it was hard in the sense of finding time, and especially during exam season. Like that was a moment. Like we didn't talk on the phone for like a week, but like in that I had to be understanding, because it's like he's striving to be a doctor. Like that's his goal. So like I had to respect that. You know, that was hard. But
And I think the biggest thing, especially for y'all, is and anybody going into college, is that, especially if you're not going to be at the same school, is intentionality.
Definitely.
Like that is the most important thing. Like it's not like, hey, like, okay, the relationship may happen regardless of if you put in any effort, but if you really want the relationship to thrive, both spiritually and in other aspects, like you need to be intentional about it, right? Like you know, I may sacrifice a weekend of hanging out with my friends in college to come home and see her and hang out with her, so that we have an opportunity to spend time together. I like when we get to college, you know, I may give up a weekend and go drive an hour to Dahlonega to go hike a mountain with her or something.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's intentionality, and it's like actively making time, because if you don't actively make time, then things just won't happen. Life gets busy, you know. And as we were talking about in that Fire episode 2, which if you haven't watched, you should go see. if you don't deal with stuff now, like the issues y'all have now, it's just gonna get worse in college, right? Like if like it's hard for you to find, I mean, obviously not for y'all are like always together, but if like a couple is struggling to spend time with each other now, when they get to college, it's just gonna get worse. Life is gonna get busier, but as Jack said, you have more things to fill that time with. You know, so I mean,
That's
so
good.
Yeah.
intentionality, that's like the most
Intentionality.
important thing. Even if, and let's say, you know, you can't make it 4 weekends in a row, you can't go visit, you know, send a letter in the mail, you know, ship over something, send a really nice long text. Like, it's like stuff like that, just to remind the person that, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I still care about you, you know, stuff like that.
That's good.
So, yeah.
So, what are things that y'all struggled with being in college, and then what did you do to fix those things?
I would say the biggest thing I think I learned was communication. And even like just some advice to all, like trust is such a big thing. Like I know he would like never do anything, but that human side of me, like there would be stuff in my mind like, oh, like he's in a frat house. So like that whole idea for me was like, oh, like there's obviously going to be girls around. It's a Christian frat, so like hopefully not. But there was times where like he'd be at parties, and like I was like, oh, like obviously there's girls that are prettier than me. So like that was something in my mind, but there was this level of trust that like I had to sit with the Lord and be like, okay, like I really love Nico, but I'm like, Lord, like in this moment, like I'm doubting, so like I just had to surrender that. But yeah, so the biggest thing I would say is communication and that intentionality, like constantly communicate. If you feel some type of way, if they come off, if you're texting, you haven't called in like 2 days, and the text, you know, you're reading and they have an attitude, bring that to them, because most likely no, but like still, if that's something you feel, say that, especially when you can't like see each other like that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything she said.
Nothing to add.
I mean, she was at Elka. I mean, there's not really a lot going on there. I mean, I don't know. It was just, the hardest part was just, you know, in high school I got to see her every day, you know, and that was like really great. And you don't realize how great that is until you go to college and you're seeing each other twice a month, maybe. And so just really like intentionality is how we solve that. Intentionality, communication, and just loving Jesus, like
and vulnerability too. So I think
that kind of goes into like communication
definitely
too.
Like I definitely went through like a month where like I was just really scared to like bring stuff to him, and like that took a moment. Not because of him, just that's just who I am. Like I don't really open up to people that much, but I had to learn like, okay, truly like obviously I'm dating him, so like if I want it to work, we're dating to marry, like we have to like build this relationship. So yeah, I think it's honestly just being vulnerable, communication, accountability, trust. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So valid.
Yeah,
I think that'll be like the biggest thing for me is like what y'all just said, just like the communication part, because like I mean literally we see each other like every day, basically, but yeah, I think it'll be hard, but I think it'll be good to have a space where I can be on my own, of just like not in like a sense like, oh, he's annoying, like but in a sense like I am my own person, like my identity is not in him, but it is in God, and I am my own person, you know. And it was kind of hard, like I mean I'd say here, like I mean obviously like it's like, oh, if he's not there, they're like, oh, where's Eli, which I love that, but
still like
but sadly it'll come to an end. But
what you're saying though is like definitely true. Like us being at different places provides the opportunity for us to grow independently, and as we were saying before, that is the priority in dating, right? Like obviously working on your relationship is very important as well, but you should be prioritizing your relationship with Jesus, and the other person should be prioritizing their own relationship with Jesus, and you should not be prioritizing like the relationship itself, but you should be like supporting them prioritizing their relationship with Jesus, you know? Like, and I'm not saying just ignore the relationship, you know, but like just let that be a secondary fact to it. And being separate from each other provides the opportunity to truly grow in that way. It provides tests and stuff that you would not necessarily have had to face if you, let's say, you're together every day. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question to ask. How would y'all say that being equally yoked applies to friendships, like outside of relationships? We talked a lot about relationships, and I think that like romantic relationships, and that's obviously really important because you're hopefully planning to spend the rest of your life with this person. But how would you say, is it okay? Are we pausing?
I guess we can unpause.
So I have a question actually, and it's how would you say being equally yoked applies to like friendships? Like we've been talking a lot about romantic relationships, which are really important because hopefully you're planning to marry this person, and that's something you should be working towards, and that's the way the phrase equally yoked is applied a lot. But how does that apply to maybe your friendships, or how does iron sharpening iron apply to your friendships outside of a romantic relationship?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say like it's okay to have friends who aren't Christian because like obviously you can lead them to Christ. But I would say it's kind of different when you have best friends that aren't Christian because it's like community is so important. And like the Lord talks about that all the time in the Bible. And the people you go to, they should be leading you closer to Christ. And I would say like, I heard this somewhere and it stuck with me. And we were talking on the phone actually earlier, and then I said it and he was like, that's really good. So yeah. So Jesus had his 12, but in those 12, he had his 3. So it's like,
That's a bar. That's a bar.
Wow.
it's like you can have your friend group, but within that friend group or even out of it, like you need people you go to like, hey, I'm struggling. Even like people you go to like, hey, like this good thing happened in my life. So you need people where it's like, again, they can lead you closer to Christ. And I think that's really important with being equally yoked in friendships because it's like, I don't know, they see it differently. Like they see it from the Lord and through like a biblical lens. So I think that's really important.
It's like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like I'm like agreeing with you, but I feel like you also need friends who are not Christian
Yeah.
to keep you kind of in the loop almost, and almost like humble you whenever you maybe look like that Christian friend that people can't relate with. So I feel like you need Christian friends to go to that are influencing you, and not only influencing you but holding you accountable. But you also need those friends that are, you know, not Christian to not only pour into, but also, you know, they can keep you humble.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but then it also like if those say non-Christians are like your main people, like let's just say, I mean, but and they're like influencing you. So like I was thinking of like what I was talking about before, like the hindrance part. So in like Galatians 5, it talks about like a little leaven leavens the whole lump, right? So say like, I mean, this person is not leading you to Christ like really at all. So I mean, at that point you're kind of weak in a way. So I mean, even just like them taking you away from church, say, you know, they're going to a party and they're like, oh yeah, I guess I'll go. That's taking you away from, could be a quiet time with the Lord, like with your friends, like your Christian community. And like, it could really just impact your faith and like your relationship with Christ in like a negative way.
I think all of what y'all are saying is all true. And like, although they're like a little bit contradicting, I feel like it's true in the way of like, you should have those non-Christian people, right? But don't let those non-Christian people be your 3.
Yeah.
Don't let those people be the person who you're seeking this life advice from. And we were talking about this earlier, and it was like, you're not gonna go to a medical doctor, or like you're not gonna go to someone who's not a medical doctor to heal you. And in the same way, you shouldn't be going to someone who's not sharing the same worldview as you for advice that could dictate the outcome of your life, kind of thing. So just make sure that those people who are maybe not well versed in their faith, or maybe not Christian at all, don't allow them to be the 3, but you should keep people like that as part of the 12, because that provides you, as you were saying, everything you were saying about keeping you humble, allowing you someone that you can pour into. All of that stuff is very true. And I definitely think there's benefit in having people in your life who aren't Christian, because I mean, our mission on earth is to pour into other people, right? Like, this is the Great Commission. Like, know Christ and make him known. And if you are only surrounding yourself with only Christian people, then it makes it a lot more difficult to do that. And that is also highlighting the difference between romantic relations and platonic relationships. Because romantic relationships, you're looking to potentially spending the rest of your life with this person. And therefore, you can't choose somebody who's maybe not there, or you shouldn't choose somebody who's like maybe not there in their faith, because you're then like flirting to converting. Like, that's like it's like you're playing a dangerous game here. But with friends, right, like, because this isn't a person who you're like your only other person who you're planning to potentially spend the rest of your life with, like, it's okay to then have those people who maybe are not as well versed in their faith.
I want to add to where you said like the flirting to converting. It's like we personally do not convert anybody. Like, it's all the Holy Spirit. Like, all we can do is put a stone in their shoe. I like that phrase from Tactics.
Yeah.
But like, if you put a stone in their shoe, you become annoying, and you're like, okay, like, let me get this out. Let me check it out. Let me look, and let me ask questions. That's the only thing you can do. And if they choose to, accept Christ, that wasn't you. That was, the Holy Spirit pouring on their heart.
Whole spurt.
Yeah, that's really good. I think also, like, with not having friends that maybe not so much kingdom minded as you, or like they're not chasing the Lord as hard as you are, I think you just being their example is like perfect. Like, I've had people come to me and be like, Nyla, like, I really love the way you love people. I'm like, I didn't even know I was doing that, but like, people are watching you. And like, I think that's really important to just know that you're being watched. And so like, just, it's really important. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
I know what you're saying.
I was talking about that with I had lunch with Judah this morning, and I was like, as a senior in high school, like, to me it's still crazy that like people actually look up to me, and like they like, okay, that's Eli, like, because for me, I'm still like, the same freshman, that's just like a goofy guy. But
A goofy guy.
but like, people actually look up to me, and that's still mind blowing to me. But it's also like, okay, I need to lock in. People are looking at me, and they're what I do represents Christ.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to hinder somebody because I'm not acting right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad would say it's a stumbling block. He's
Definitely.
always saying, don't be a stumbling block for others.
Yeah.
So like, the way you're acting, like, you can't go party on Saturday and drink and all that, then show up to church on Sunday praising the Lord. Like,
Exactly.
if someone sees that, then it's like, okay, like, they're a new Christian, they're like, okay, then I can go party.
Exactly.
Like, oh, it's right, they can do it.
Right,
And
like,
they're
what's the
Christian.
difference?
Now I can do it. Like,
yeah,
you just can't be that stumbling block for others.
definitely.
Yeah, and what you were just saying is like don't be the reason another believer falls into sin, right? Like, if you're supposed to be helping each other out and leading each other. So, like, for example, like, what's a good example of this? Like, drinking alcohol legally is not a sin in and of itself, right? Like, maybe when I'm 40 years old and I'm hanging with the boys and I have a beer in my hand or something, I don't know. But if you're with people who are struggling with that, or are this could cause them to stumble, right? Or like, for example, if you're out somewhere and you're surrounded by a lot of unbelievers, right? Like, this should not be something that you should do, because you could be the reason that someone else stumbles, And so, like, just using proper discernment and like, hey, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this?
Yeah.
So.
I want to add, I don't know which one of y'all said it, but it was like, I don't know, but the verse she said a couple verses before, it's literally, you know, you were running well. Who hindered you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't be the person who's hindering that person. Don't be the leaven that leavens the lump.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's all.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow. That's really good.
Wow. Yeah. Mm.
Well,
Well, do we have anything else?
I was gonna hit on how you said like you need people who kind of keep you humble. I think also a charge for Christians is like don't try to play God.
mm-hmm.
Like don't try to make someone else, I guess, fall in love with Jesus. Because like, yeah, our job is to lead others to Christ, but like, you know, at the end of the day, there's free will, and it's like don't try to play God. Like, I don't know. You said becoming like staying humble, and that really like hit me. Yeah.
There's a quote that I like, and it's like, who are you to think that you're so big to mess up God's plan?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm.
That's good.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all have anything to add? Nothing else y'all want to speak about?
Any questions?
Let's see.
I think that's all I have.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay, well, I guess that's the end of the episode. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week. Saturdays at 12. Hopefully, you know, maybe a little behind. All right. Give me some grace. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.